What is up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of F1 2020 Career Mode. It's been 3 days. This has been just as tough for me as it has for you. Basically, I have to get ahead a little bit because towards the end of this month and the start of September, I've got a few days where I won't be able to make YouTube videos, and so I'm kind of just getting ahead and planning for that so that we don't miss out future days going forward, hopefully. But anyway, here we are for another episode. This time we're here for the Japanese Grand Prix, and this is going to be an interesting time in this championship. Now we're getting towards the business end. 5 races remaining, including this one, and so from here we can't afford any more mistakes. In terms of activities we've got going here, we're going to favor team acclaim, driver acclaim, etc. Really, we're just trying to do the best job we can. Like, it's turned into a real grind now, trying to get the team acclaim level up. I feel like we've been stuck in level 18 for the longest time. So, that's just how it goes, I guess. Increasing the pace of my teammate George Russell with some weight training for this race weekend. So that's going to boost his rating up to potentially 92 or something. So that is something to look forward to. We do an invitational event in between Grand Prix, which gives us 1,000 driver acclaim and 150 grand. And we're going to fast forward time just a little bit more, and we are going to roll into the next race weekend. Championship-wise, we're trailing Valtteri Bottas by 4 points. It's very close. And we've got Charles Leclerc sandwiched in between us, 2 points ahead of us. So it's pretty crazy. Constructors-wise, I think we're about 30 points behind. So we need to buckle down on durability, make sure that there's no retirements, there's no crap strategies for George Russell, and continue to develop the car. So heading into this race, what we're going to do upgrade-wise, I think it's going to be weight redistribution. I was tempted by tyre wear upgrades, but the car is already pretty darn good in terms of tyre wear, and we can do one stops just about anywhere, so it's not really worth it at this stage. We're not struggling for tyres versus other teams. But heading into Japan, you can see Mercedes have brought some big upgrades. They're continuing along this trajectory of momentum. There's no other word for it. They're just continuing to upgrade. They might have brought a major upgrade into this race, and as such, they keep pace. They keep their position in the development race being the best car. And it just makes life that little bit difficult for us. We need to be out-developing Mercedes, catching them up in terms of upgrades and being faster than them, because we need to start getting 1-2s. Much like we were at the midpoint of the season, we need to get some momentum going, hopefully. So we'll see what we can do this weekend. Japan is always a strong track for Mercedes in real life, so I don't know, a little bit nervous as to how this race weekend will go. We topped practice 1, practice 2, I think we topped that as well. Did a qualifying run in that one, so not too bad. Good flow of resource points, which is exactly what we need. But let's roll into qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix. I hope we're on the pace here. This is a track where in the past the AI have tended to flourish, so it could be tough. It looks a little gloomy out there, but we are back for Saturday qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix. Hopefully no rain is about and we can have a straightforward race weekend. I have gone for a full qualifying dry setup, and so we are making no compromises in terms of that. But anyway, one thing I noticed here in qualifying, and this is something I've been picking up on recently, is just a trend that's starting to emerge. The car is getting very fast, obviously, but it's almost like it's too fast. Like, in terms of like 1 lap pace, I'm kind of just like holding on for the ride. The car is so fast that in sector 1, I don't even feel like I had enough downforce to really get me through most of the corners. I can't remember what I'm running specifically. I think it might be 3, 6 wings, 4, 7. Around that region. I was fine in Friday practice when the speeds were lower on harder compounded tyre, didn't have the extra engine mode, and we were running with a little bit of fuel on board. But when we turn things up to 11, have absolutely no fuel in the car, have the max fuel mixture available to us, it's like the car completely comes alive. It almost handles completely differently. You can take, sometimes you have to take corners in a higher gear than what you do in practice, and so it was crazy. I almost felt like the car was barely hanging on, and through some corners it was quite sketchy. So yeah, it's tricky. It's a completely different animal in qualifying. We do hold on. We get P6 in that opening session. I did struggle through that session a little bit. My first lap wasn't good enough. Second lap was. Move on to Q2, and we find even more pace. I think we improved by a tenth or two over Q1. So that was nice progression. I guess the track is rubbering in. We're getting a little bit more dialed into how the car feels over one lap. But we move on to qualifying 3 now, and I think we only have one shot at this. So, yeah, if we have a bad run in Q1 or Q2 and we have to use 2 sets of tyres, it means that we're running compromised for the rest of the weekend, and the rest of the sessions in qualifying. You can really only get away with running 2 sets of tyres in one session, and unfortunately for us, we did that in Q1. So it means that in Q2, you can only do 1 run. I normally do 1 run in Q2 anyway, hopefully. But Q3, I would have liked to have had 2 bites of the cherry here. Unfortunately, not going to be the case, but we'll see what we can do. Actually, I have set a bank up, but I think it was on a used set of tyres. That's probably why we're up by so much as we head into the final chicane. Pretty good lap so far. Can't really complain all too much. I did turn in a little bit early for the spoon curve, which cost me about a tenth or two, I would say. But overall, a good lap. But it puts me in P8 for the Japanese Grand Prix. It's so darn close at the front of the field, even though the performance index doesn't suggest it. We've got the likes of Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault, only 3/10 away, backed up by Esteban Ocon there in P5, sorry. So it's crazy. Like, Renault is way off us in terms of where they stand in the performance index and how many upgrades they've got. But yet they're in the ballpark of, well, they've beaten me, but they were not too far away from beating George as well. So scary stuff. If the setup isn't quite in the window, which I feel like it wasn't for qualifying, maybe needed more downforce. But in the race, I feel like we should be fine.
Welcome along then to the magnificent Suzuka International Circuit, a stone's throw away from Issa Bay in the beautiful Japanese countryside. What surprises lie in wait for us today in the Japanese Grand Prix? And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race. They must be starting to feel the pressure at this point, Ant, surely. There's a real shot at the title on the cards here, but one error at the wrong time, well, that could throw it all away.
Of course, there's never a good time to make mistakes, but it will feel 10 times worse if it happens at such a critical point of the season. Let's hope this contest is settled where it should be, on track, wheel to wheel.
5 races remaining and you've still got a chance of winning the World Drivers' title. Let's grab a solid points finish.
Let's do exactly that, Jeff. Welcome to the grid of the Japanese Grand Prix. Looks like a one-stop is faster, but we are not going to leave things to chance. We're going to play around with the strategy and see if we can muster up something better for us. Maybe using the medium tires to round out this race. Maybe not possible. I think we'll play it safe with the hard compound tires with so much at stake. But here we are, the Japanese Grand Prix. The championship is so darn close. You can throw a blanket over all 3 of us. 5 red lights. And off we go for this Japanese Grand Prix. And once again, it's an absolutely shocking start. Get overtaken by Sainz, nearly overtaken by Verstappen. On the run into turn 1, we've actually made collision with Verstappen. We only lightly grazed his left front end plate, but there is no damage for anyone at the front of the field. I'm thinking about making a video where I practice doing race starts over and over and over again until we nail it. Is that something you guys want to see me do? I might make it a live com and we can suffer together through it all. Because right now, this is just silly what we are showcasing today. Oh, here we go. We're going to get up the inside of Sainz here into the hairpin. Thank you very much. That is P7 for us. But the reason why I really want to work on it is that Constructors Champs video I did the other day. Just highlighted how bad my starts are. I already knew they were bad up against AI, but some of those pad players were just flying past us. So we need to better our starts to make things a little easier for ourselves in all facets of racing. on F1 2020. But anyway, first lap is over and done with, and it's P7. It's an okay start. We haven't lost our front wing. We're still in the game, so I guess I can't really complain. Next up is Sebastian Vettel. Charles Leclerc is probably going to have a tough time of things in this championship now that Renault have continued to upgrade their car. Renault might be a real thorn in their side as they take away constructors and drivers' points away from Charles Leclerc and Ferrari. We need to get in front of the Renaults. They could be a thorn in my side as well, actually, if we don't have the pace in the early stanza of this Grand Prix. But we're going to march on as best we can. We always seem to have slow starts, and that's not just because of my bad starts I get on the first lap, but literally on heavy fuel we don't tend to be as strong as some others around us. We tend to phase in a little bit better later on. But you can see early doors, lap 3, we're already suffering with tyre temperature problems, which is alarming because I'm running very, very low tyre pressures. And apart from that, there's not much I can do to really counteract that. This is a symptom which affects all career mode players once they get into big upgrades and stuff. The car becomes so fast that the tyres can't really handle the G-loads that go through them. It's a bit of a running problem, and Codemasters haven't addressed it because the tyres need to be able to handle those higher tolerances in order to make it fair for the player, because the AI never really suffer with tyre temperature problems. This always happens in areas of racing where the conditions aren't exactly ideal. So when the tyres are overheating, or when the tyres are really cold, albeit maybe on a cold, wet track, maybe on slick tyres, slightly wet track, the AI can gain a lot out of that, and same too with when you're on inters on a dry track, for example. But whoa, that's a bit of a hairy incident heading into the pit lane. We nearly binned the car, boxing it in for our hard compound tyres. We knocked over the bollard, did we? I think we did, and then we touched the grass as well for good measure. Nearly oversteered into the inside barrier. Touched the grass again, but thankfully that didn't destabilize the car a second time, and we were able to regain traction and grip. And actually still, what's a bit of a miracle is actually slow it down for the line to not speed into the pit lane. But the pit stop from the Marduk Motorsport boys was absolutely dreadful. I'll replay it up on screen now. It just didn't look like they were bothered about staying in front of the McLaren. They were just a bit lazy there. So that's so crap. Anyway, the terrible pit stop has meant we've lost the position to Sainz. We had to let him go in the fast lane, and because of that, it's a snowball effect, because now we've rejoined behind Matsushita in the Williams on old medium compound tyres. You can see how much Sainz is getting away because of that problem. We should be in front of Sainz, but yet we have to risk the car.
Nice move. Good job.
Had to risk the car in order to get in front of that Williams there. So that is very unfortunate. That's going to cost us further time as people rejoin on the circuit just up the road. I believe that was one of the Ferraris. It was Sebastian Vettel. Oh my goodness. Oversteer moment. That was not temperature related, funnily enough. So maybe we need to revise some things. Maybe the aero setup in future races run higher downforce than what I would normally. The car seems to be struggling a little bit, just a tiny bit, through the first sector. And another thing we could potentially look at as well is the tyre simulation temperatures. Maybe we need to turn off carcass temperature and just have it on surface only in order to keep it an even playing field with the AI. Let me know. I want to make it difficult and I want to keep it difficult, but when your tyres are automatically overheating and your competitors aren't, it's a bit crap, to be honest. But something that's not crap is that dive bomb into the hairpin. Thank you very much. P9 for the taking. I realize I've done a lot of complaining in this episode. That will stop now as we look to march on in this Grand Prix. One thing I will say is that I think we're a lot more comfortable on the hard compound tyre. The soft just wasn't really working for us in our car, and the hard is giving us a lot more competitiveness relative to our rivals. As we can see, Sebastian Vettel not getting a great run out of the final corner. We're going to put it up into overtake, and Rich to see if we can overtake him around the outside. We're getting the slipstream of Latifi and Leclerc. We tried to go up the inside into turn 1, but that was a closing gap on Esteban Ocon that could have ended in absolute tears for all of us. So decided to play it patiently. I backed out of it. Vettel nearly had a go at me into turn 2. That's a massive slide out of the spoon curve. I am absolutely putting on a drift show today in this Japanese Grand Prix, but I'm having good fun. This is turning into a spicy old race. Latifi up next in the Haas, dipping a wheel into the dirt, throwing that into my visor. Thank you very much. Consuela, my cleaner, is going to have fun wiping that off my visor later. So, yeah, cheers Latifi. Pulls into the pit lane. Thankfully, I didn't dive up the inside into the final chicane. I thought about a risky move, but I'm glad I favoured patience there. We can't exactly rush into moves, and because of where we are in the championship, we can't afford to just drive like an idiot. There's so much at stake. We need to play the long game, essentially. So, let's see if we can get Esteban Ocon now. We actually set the fast up of the Grand Prix in the slipstream and DRS of the Renault. We fly up the inside into turn 1, and that puts us back inside. No, it doesn't put us back inside the top 5. We haven't been in the top 5 all race. So it's been a nice comeback now after what was an average qualifying, an average start to the Grand Prix. But on these hard compound tyres, our pace and our race is really starting to come alive. Purple in the third sector as well, so that's just only going to fuel the ego, I suppose, fuel the confidence, and we'll see what we can do from here. Again, purple into sector 1, 2 tenths up this time, so life is looking awfully dandy as we get a track limits warning. It's not really much of an issue. It's pretty hard to corner cut or extend around this place, so I think we should be fine in terms of penalties. But we're in the slipstream of Charles Leclerc into 130R. Again, green into the third sector split, and we're going to see if we go purple on this last lap. Again, everyone likes to dip a wheel into the dirt there. Anyway, it's another fastest lap. First driver into the 26s for this race. The tyre wear is absolutely not an issue. It won't be an issue for us. It may be more of an issue for other teams, but for us, I think we'll be absolutely fine. That might be part of the reason why we're coming alive a little bit more, running this really long, hard compound tyre stint. Others might be dropping off a little bit faster than us, whereas we're in the slipstream of Leclerc. Fly past him around the outside on the start-finish straight. And now we will set our sights after our teammate. The gap was about 2 seconds. We're closing him in by about a tenth or so per lap. At the moment, he's actually stretching away, but we're gaining it back a little bit of momentum as he's actually closing up to Lewis Hamilton in this Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas leads, so that's not good news for me. But in these final 4 laps, I've actually just decided to go stuff it and use up all the battery. I'm not trying to conserve it anymore. We're just literally going to drain the battery for all that it's worth on the start-finish straight and also on the run into 130R in an effort to try and get in the slipstream, try and get in the DRS of George Russell ahead. But he's just about keeping outside of 1 second. We catch up to 1 second on this straight, but we're not within 1 second at the detection zone. And that today has been very, very costly for me. Last lap. And yeah, because I didn't get DRS on that last lap, my opportunities ran out, and I just kind of settled for P4, which is a pretty good comeback considering the woeful start to the race that we had. Dropping positions to Sainz, to the Renaults, having to fight our way back through the field on the hard compound tyres. Need to qualify better, need to start better, and we could have been able to challenge the Mercedes for sure.
Another action-packed Japanese Grand Prix comes to an end. And what a magnificent drive to take the win here today. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
Well done, Mercedes. It is a 1-2 for them once again. George Doing the goods for us there, P3. Unfortunately, he just lost a place to Hamilton. I'm not too sure where. Might have been around the pit stop phase. But he was coming back towards him at the end of the race. I was catching George, and George was catching Lewis. And unfortunately, it was a bit of a stalemate. We ran out of laps to really do anything about that. So, unfortunate. But we'll bounce back strong in the next Grand Prix. I don't know if you noticed, but at the start of this episode, we did a DRS upgrade, which will hopefully come in for the next episode. And I'm really glad I've done that now, because that might aid us a little bit more in our qualifying pace. It might be that some of the other teams are getting a better benefit for drag reduction on the straights, and we're missing out on that in terms of one-lap pace. So that'll hopefully help us in the future. But today's not been a good day. Bottas has extended his lead quite massively over us. I think that was a 13-point gain on us. So it's extended to 18 points. Charles Leclerc, we draw level with him on 266 points apiece. George Russell makes slight gains on us, but doesn't make any gains on Bottas. And to be honest, George really needs to start winning races now. He needs to get a roll on to have any chance of winning this championship for himself. Otherwise, he's going to have to start... I don't like throwing that word around, but supporting me in trying to win the drivers. But ultimately, the goal is the constructors. Always has been in this championship. We trail Mercedes by 47 points. Heading into the final 4 episodes of this series. And you can see Valtteri Bottas has actually just won the rivalry. So that's going to give me a bit of a dip in terms of my driver acclaim, which makes things go slower in terms of the boosting the team acclaim, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. It's not all one-way traffic on F1 2020. Unlike previous games, it seems like AI teams can randomly gain momentum, and it looks like Mercedes has done just that. A big pot of cash, which I am kind of tempted to throw money towards the facilities now as part of a final effort to topple Mercedes. We need to do something, and we need to do something now. We need to throw upgrades at this car. This will probably be at the start of the next episode. This is the crunching point. We really need to get some meaningful upgrades on the car. Maybe it's time to go for, like, engine power and just dominate Mercedes with brute power. Possibly. Just qualify ahead of them, stay ahead of them, essentially. We've already got the best downforce in the field. Chassis is decent, I think. Mercedes might have us there, but we definitely have the best aero package in the field. But I think the engine is what's lacking. But not really in the way that you might think it is. We're lacking in terms of, like, ERS stuff and fuel consumption. In terms of raw power, we're pretty good. But anyway, I'm waffling now. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Like I've said over the course of this video, we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of upgrades to make, and we need to stem the flow of momentum that is going towards Mercedes at this point in the season. They are leaving Ferrari in their wake. Renault are upgrading and are putting us now under pressure. So we need to upgrade to just kind of keep them at arm's length. We can't afford for them to put cars in between myself and my rivals, George and Bottas. We need to be qualifying in the top 4. And at the moment, I'm just not doing good enough. So that's the aim. The next few races, join me for the final 4 races of Season 2 of F1 2020 Career Mode My Team. Let me know who you think is going to win down in the comments, and I'll give it my best shot. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next one, I'll see you next time.